You have been asking the wrong questions your entire life, and the moment you ask the right ones, everything shifts. Most men think building closeness with a woman means being direct, saying exactly what you want, being bold. But psychology tells us something completely different. The men who create real emotional depth with women are not the ones who push. They are the ones who pull, gently, with the right words, at the right moment. This was never your fault. Nobody taught you this. The world told you that attraction was about confidence, about taking charge, about making things happen. But the truth about how women open up emotionally is something that has been hidden in plain sight. And by the end of this video, you will understand why certain questions unlock something deep inside her, while others shut her down completely. Stay until the final point, because that one changes everything about how she sees you. If this is already starting to make sense, tap like. You are doing something most men will never do. You are learning. Welcome to this channel where we explore the hidden psychology of genuine human connection. Here is what research tells us. Psychologists at Stanford studied thousands of conversations between strangers who later reported feeling deeply connected. They found that the factor most responsible for emotional closeness was not humor, not attractiveness, not shared interests. It was the quality of questions asked. Specific types of questions triggered what they called accelerated intimacy. Questions that invited vulnerability without demanding it. Questions that made the other person feel seen rather than examined. Most men never learn this. They spend years wondering why conversations stay on the surface, why she smiles but keeps her guard up, why the connection never quite deepens. But the men who understand this become unforgettable, not because they push harder, but because they ask differently. This is not about manipulation or control. This is about understanding how emotional safety works, how trust gets built through words. If your intention is not genuine, none of this will work. Women sense everything. Let me walk you through the questions that change everything. The first type is what I call the observation question. This is not about asking her to tell you facts about herself. It is about showing her that you have already noticed something. The formula is simple. You observe something specific about her. Then you ask what it means. Dr. Arthur Aaron, the psychologist famous for the 36 questions that create love, found that questions which demonstrate prior attention feel completely different than generic questions. When you say something like, "Tell me about yourself," she hears a blank form to fill out. When you say, "I noticed you smiled when you mentioned your grandmother and then looked away. What was that about?" she hears something else entirely. She hears that you see her, that you are paying attention, that she matters enough for you to notice the small things. Imagine this. You are sitting across from her at a quiet dinner table. She mentions her work, something she has probably said 100 times before to 100 different people. But you catch something. A slight change in her voice when she mentions a project. A quick look down, and instead of moving on, you pause. You say, "I heard something in your voice just now when you talked about that project. Like there is a story there. What is it?" Her whole energy shifts. Her shoulders relax. Her eyes meet yours with a different quality. Not the social gaze people use in polite conversation. Something deeper. Because you just communicated that you are not here to collect information. You are here to understand her. This works because human beings crave being witnessed. Not just heard, witnessed. And when you ask a question that proves you are already paying attention, you become rare. You become someone she wants to keep talking to. But what comes next is even more powerful. The second type is the permission question. Most men ask questions that put pressure on a woman. Even innocent questions can carry invisible weight. Questions like, "What do you want?" or "What are you looking for?" can feel like tests, like she is being evaluated. And when a woman feels evaluated, she protects herself. The permission question does the opposite. It invites without demanding. It opens a door without pushing her through. Psychologists call this creating psychological safety. Research from Google's Project Aristotle, which studied the most effective teams, found that psychological safety was the single most important factor in high-performing groups. The same principle applies to intimate conversations. When a person feels safe enough to be vulnerable without fear of judgment, they open up naturally. They do not need to be convinced. They choose to. A permission question sounds like this. "I would love to know more about that if you are comfortable sharing." Or, "There is something I am curious about, but only if it does not feel too personal." Or, "You do not have to answer this, but I have been wondering." Imagine this. You have been talking for a while. The conversation has been good, but still hovering on the surface. You sense there is more she is not saying, more she is holding back. And instead of pushing, you say, "There is something I want to ask you, but I want you to know you do not have to answer. You can tell me to move on and I will. No pressure. Watch what happens." Her whole posture changes. She leans in slightly. Maybe she laughs softly. Maybe she says, "Okay, what is it?" But what you have done is something most men never do. You have given her control. You have shown that her comfort matters more than your curiosity. And paradoxically, that is exactly what makes her want to share more. A woman in her late 40s once told me something I never forgot. She said, "The moment I knew I could trust him was when he asked me something deeply personal and then immediately said, 'I do not need to know. You can tell me nothing and I will still be right here.'" She paused and said, "That was when I wanted to tell him everything." This is about understanding and respect, not control, not manipulation. Now we need to talk about something far more subtle. The third type is the future echo question. This is one of the most underused tools in human connection. Most conversations stay locked in the present or the past. What do you do? Where did you grow up? What happened in your last relationship? These questions gather information, but they do not create intimacy. The future echo question does something different. It places her in the future. It invites her to imagine. And when a person imagines a future, they reveal what they truly value. Dr. Dan Gilbert at Harvard, author of Stumbling on Happiness, found that asking people about their imagined futures triggers deeper self-disclosure than asking about their pasts. The future feels less guarded. There are no facts to defend, only hopes and fears to explore. A future echo question sounds like this. If you could design the perfect day 5 years from now, what would it look like? Or when you imagine the life you really want, not the one you are supposed to want, what is different about it? Or what is something you hope you will be brave enough to do before you die? Imagine this. You are walking together. The conversation has been flowing, and you ask, if nothing in your life changed except one thing, what would you want that one thing to be? She goes quiet for a moment, not because you made her uncomfortable, but because no one has ever asked her that. Because you just invited her to explore herself in a way most people never do. And when she answers, she is not just telling you facts, she is sharing her inner world, the one she protects, the one that matters. This communicates something profound. It says, I am not just interested in who you are, I am interested in who you are becoming. I want to know your dreams, your quiet hopes, the parts of you that you do not show everyone. And there is a deeper layer to this. When she imagines a future out loud with you listening, something happens neurologically. Her brain begins to associate you with that future. You become linked to possibility, to hope, to the version of her life she wishes were true. This is not a trick. This is how human memory and emotion work. And when you understand it, you become unforgettable. The fourth type is the vulnerable bridge question. This is where most men get nervous, because it requires you to go first. Research on emotional reciprocity shows that vulnerability creates vulnerability. When you share something real about yourself, you give her permission to do the same. But the key is balance. Too much too fast feels overwhelming. Too little feels guarded. The vulnerable bridge question is a specific technique. You share something vulnerable about yourself, something true, something that shows you are human. And then you invite her to share something similar, not by asking directly, but by creating space. It sounds like this. There was a time when I felt completely lost. I did not know what I wanted or who I was becoming. Have you ever felt that way? Or, I used to be afraid of being really known by someone, like if they saw everything, they would leave. I wonder if that is something other people feel too. Or sometimes I think I spent years performing instead of just being myself. I do not know why I just told you that. Imagine this. You are sitting together. The conversation has deepened, and you say something I have not told many people. I used to believe I had to earn people's affection, like love was a reward for being good enough. I do not know where that came from, but it took me years to unlearn it. She looks at you differently now, not because you impressed her, but because you trusted her. You showed her something real, and when you do that, something in her relaxes. She feels safe. She feels met. She feels like maybe she can show you something real too. This is how genuine emotional closeness is built, not through clever tactics, through honest presence, through the courage to be seen first. A word of caution here. This only works when it is authentic. If you are performing vulnerability, she will sense it. If you are sharing something to manipulate her into sharing, it will backfire. The whole power of this lies in its truth, in the fact that you are genuinely opening up, that you are taking a real risk. If this is resonating with you, hit subscribe. Every video here reveals what most men never learn about genuine connection. And what comes next goes even deeper. The fifth type is what I call the depth invitation. This is the one most men never discover because it requires patience. It requires silence. It requires being comfortable with pauses that most people rush to fill. Psychologists who study conversation have found that the most meaningful exchanges happen not when people talk more, but when they allow more space. When someone asks a question and then waits. When they give the other person room to go deeper than their first answer. A depth invitation sounds like this. Tell me more about that. Or, what was that like for you, really? Or, you paused just now. What were you thinking? The technique is simple. Ask a meaningful question. And when she gives her first answer, do not move on. Do not respond with your own story. Instead, go deeper. Invite her further in. Imagine this. She mentioned something from her past, a relationship that ended, a moment that shaped her. And instead of nodding and moving on, you say, I noticed you went quiet for a second. There is something underneath that is there not. Would you tell me? Her eyes might widen. She might take a breath. And then she might share something she has never told anyone, because you created the space for it, because you showed her that you were not afraid of depth, that you would not run from what is real. Most men fill every silence. They keep the conversation moving. But the men who create real intimacy understand that silence is where trust lives. It is where the deeper things surface. When you can sit in silence with a woman and not rush to fill it, you communicate something powerful. You say, I am comfortable here. I am not anxious. I do not need to perform. I am just present with you. This communicates, I see you as more than a surface to be entertained. I see you as a depth to be explored. Now let me share the most important principle underneath all of this. The reason these questions work is not because of the words themselves. It is because of what they communicate about you. Every question you ask tells a woman something about your character. Generic questions say, I am filling time. Observational questions say, I am paying attention. Permission questions say, I respect your boundaries. Future questions say, I care about who you are becoming. Vulnerable questions say, I am brave enough to be real. Depth invitations say, I am not afraid of intensity. When you ask questions this way, you become different from every other man she has talked to. Not because you are smarter or more successful, but because you are present in a way that most people are not. And presence is the foundation of all genuine attraction. Dr. John Gottman, who has studied relationships for over 4 decades, found that the single greatest predictor of relationship success is not compatibility or communication skills. It is whether each partner turns toward the other, whether they respond to bids for connection with attention and care. These questions are a form of turning toward. They say, I am here, I am listening, you matter. Remember that moment I described earlier? When you asked her about that pause, when you noticed the shift in her voice, that is what real connection looks like. Not performance, not strategy, just two people being genuinely present with each other. This is not about tricks or games. This is about becoming the kind of man who creates safety, who asks questions that matter, who listens with his whole being. Most men will never understand this. They will spend their lives in conversations that go nowhere, wondering why women seem distant, wondering why nothing ever deepens. But you are here. You are learning. You are becoming something rare. The kind of man she feels safe with. The kind of man she opens up to. The kind of man she remembers. If something in this connected with you, tap subscribe, hit the bell, and comment the word presence below. That single word tells me you understand what this is really about. What is coming next takes this even deeper. You do not want to miss it.